he was majorly responsible for his downfall because he changed his character and
Yes.
he started doing other things that were unexpected of him, which
Good.
angered the people so much.
And that's why they supported Idi Amin, isn't it? Yes. So most of the coups that we see, the culprit or the person that is being removed from power is primarily responsible for his downfall. The case to this Milton Obote 1971 coup, Obote was primarily responsible for his downfall. Why? He became a dictator, harassed his critics, his opponents, even within his party. For example, when him or talked to him for his ambitions, like the chasing away of the Kabaka, he dismissed people of his party from the government, like Vidandi Sali. Vidandi Sali is the father of Bebe Cool, like Gracie Bingila, like Matthias Ngobi, among others, were dismissed from government and they were his UPC members. That's why we normally give that point that the divisions or the disunity within the UPC party. Besides that, Obote created himself a personal army, which caused grievances in the army. Another one, Obote was tribalistic. He practiced nepotism. He practiced nepotism, whereby he put his own brother to lead a certain military force, which annoyed Idi Amin. Another one, his socialist policies did not work. They only made people poor and made those leaders who were implementing the policies to enrich themselves with wealth. He failed to curb down the murders, to curb down the different and all the chaos and insecurity by the people who are doing condoism. Obote himself, he attacked the Buganda kingdom by exiling the Kabaka. It was not other person's making, it was his own making. Another thing is that he turned Uganda to the left, causing himself enemies outside. He interfered with the East African Charter, whereby he violated the principles of the East African community, which made him to create enemies within the East African region. His absence would have remained, so it is his own making. Among other personal differences between Obote and Idi Amin, he had the personal grudge. That's why he could always tell him that you are the one who killed Brigadier Okoya. So it created him personal differences with the army chief Idi Amin Dada. So if they say to what extent was his downfall due to his own making, you connect all the points that he himself involved in, and then you bring other factors which were beyond his own making, and it was due to other factors like influence from other coups, among others, and then you conclude that question. So that was Amin's coup. That was Amin's coup. Then from there, if there is no other question, any question there? The effects are easy. You just get them from the causes. Everything that was bad was stopped by Idi Amin. He ended the corruption. He ended the tribalism. He built a strong army. And from there, you can tell us the economic crisis. He expelled the Asians, which created the young Africans who were rich, young rich Africans who were normally called the Mafuta Minji. He reduced on the corruption and embezzlement in Uganda. He nationalized all factors of production. So the effects were both positive and negative. You get them from the causes, or you can tell us what were Amin's achievements in Uganda and his failures. Those are the effects of the coup. The effects of the coup are Amin's achievements and then his failures. Okay, our next topic or sub topic or case study here is the case study of the 1974 coup in Ethiopia. 1974 coup in Ethiopia. Ethiopia as a country, it was among the countries that survived direct colonialism, as we said, that in 1896, at the Battle of Adowa, they survived colonialism under the leadership of the emperor, by that time, Emperor Menelik II. We are seeing that in 1934, there was a World War incident where there was an attack between the Ethiopian troops and the Italian troops that were guarding at the border near the oasis called Wal. And then from there, in 1935, Mussolini directly confronted and attacked Ethiopia in what we prominently call the Italo-Ethiopian crisis, which took place till 1941, I think a period of around 5 to 6 years. Then from there, we are seeing that Emperor Haile Selassie, who came to power in 1930s, he became a president. He was a darling of Ethiopia. In the 1960s, he was still a darling. That is why he did a number of things in Ethiopia, improving the education sector, building different universities, such as the Haile Selassie University in Ethiopia, in Addis Ababa, and many others, improving sports. Ethiopia participated in the All African Games, in Olympic Games, and they were winning football, etc. The Ethiopia Airways, and many other achievements. So he was a good man, a darling. He was among the founders of the Organization of African Unity, 25th May 1963. He was an African statesman, a great man, among others. The founder of the Rastafarian movement, which was even renamed from himself, his name, Rastafari Dijumach Makonnen, and it was made Rastafari. Ras, a title in Ethiopia, and Tafari, his real name, Rastafari, Rastafarian, a sect or movement. So he was a darling of everybody. However, in Ethiopia, people were poor. People were poor, and he had become dictatorial, autocratic, and others. So you find that this man, Emperor Selassie, in 1960, there was a coup, an attempted coup in Ethiopia by Mengistu Newe. However, it was not successful because Emperor Selassie, because he was a darling from Europe, he was able to get support from USA, and he suppressed the coup plotters, arrested them. Others were tried and then later imprisoned, and then they were given a death penalty. So that attempted coup of 1960 was not successful. But we are saying that in 1974, I don't remember, I think it was around the 8th September 1974, there was a coup that was staged by young or junior officers of the peasant origin. I mean, peasant origin can refer to maybe those who are not connected to the first family, those who are not connected to the better ethnic groups. In Ethiopia, they have ethnic groups. We have the Amharas. The Amharas are those ones where Emperor Haile Selassie belonged. Then we have the Tigris, where we are having the fighting these days in Tigray. That is the northwestern part of the country. Then they had Eritrea. By that time it was in Ethiopia, not until when they seceded in 1993 by Isaias Afwerki. Then they had Horal, Horal, Horal. Then they had what else? So there are many tribes in Ethiopia there. So you find that these soldiers were from peasant origin, not known. So they were led by a man known as uh, Haile Mengistu Mariam, and other soldiers like Anan and many others. They staged what we call a coup on Emperor Haile Selassie, who was found in his office and arrested and imprisoned, and his death was not known, not until when rumors came out that he died in prison and he was buried in a pit latrine. But the body later was retrieved and it was given a state burial. So you find that Emperor Haile Selassie, that's how he ended his life, besides the good work that he had done. Besides the good work that he had what? That he had done. So now the question here is, what were the causes of this? What were the causes of this coup in 1971? What were the causes of this coup in 1974? In 1974. Number one, let me give you some of the factors that I can remember. Factor number one was what we call feudalism. Emperor Haile Selassie practiced feudalism. Feudalism is that kind of the way how land is owned in the unfair way. You can also call it unfair land distribution, whereby a few people own land and the majority become squatters or serfs on their own land. So here we have people of the Amhara, we have the nobles, we have the church, and many other privileged groups own the land at the expense of the peasants who became squatters and serfs on that land. This annoyed them, and that is why they supported Haile Mengistu Mariam together with the other soldiers to stage a coup against Emperor Haile Selassie. Number two, Emperor Haile Selassie practiced open nepotism. He favored his own people, family members. He practiced open nepotism by favoring his family members. Besides that, he also favored members of the Wafd, members of his party. And you find that other people were just losing out in the civil service and in many other government opportunities. This annoyed the soldiers, and then they decided to stage a coup. Another factor was tribalism. Emperor Haile Selassie practiced tribalism. He favored his own Amhara people for his Amhara tribe, which dominated the politics and the civil service in the country. Here, you find that in the army, there were Amharas. In the civil service, they were the Amharas. And everywhere, the Amharas dominated. This annoyed Mengistu Mariam. And they got support from other tribes like Tigray and many other Somalis and Ethiopians, Eritreans, hence the success of the coup. Another factor was divisions in the army. Divisions in the army, whereby there were a number of grievances here. They had little payments. Besides the little payments, they had what we call, they didn't have uniforms. They didn't have food, good housing, among others. Actually, the soldiers blamed the loss of Ethiopia in 1936 on who? Blamed the loss on Emperor Selassie for his failure to give them enough weapons to defeat Ethiopia after the attack of Benito Mussolini and Reya in 1935. So all this blame, alongside the uh, the 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 poor payments and all other grievances, we find that they were able to finally stage what we call a successful coup in 1974. Another factor that led to the coup was what we call the outbreak of famine. In 1972 to 1974, Ethiopia was attacked by famine, and many people were there suffering. They were in misery, and many died because of famine. But Emperor Haile Selassie didn't take any step to solve the situation. And when people, volunteers from other countries, World Health Organizations, decided to give some aid, some support, some relief, Emperor Haile Selassie, because he didn't want to shame his government, he refused this. And when he refused this, people suffered at the expense of the government. And this annoyed soldiers, hence leading to the 1974 coup by Haile Mengistu Mariam. Another one, the failure to end the Eritrean secession. The failure to end the Eritrean secession by Emperor Selassie. Many times the Eritreans wanted to secede. Secession is a tendency of breaking away from the main government. You find that the Eritreans tried several times to break away through constitutional means or other ways. But you find that all their demands were suppressed by the emperor. Like even in 1960, he rigged elections. And when he rigged elections, you find that all of their efforts were suppressed and they didn't get their independence as they wished. So they kept on demanding and demanding. Yet Emperor Selassie was using alternative efforts, such as suppressing them bitterly by directly involving into war with them. All this annoyed the soldiers and the masses, especially from the Eritrean side, hence supporting Haile Mengistu Mariam together with other soldiers to stage a coup. Another factor that led to the coup in Ethiopia was the dictatorship of Emperor Haile Selassie. Emperor Selassie was too autocratic, was dictatorial in nature, in the way that he suppressed his opponents, he censored freedoms. A good example, freedom of religion, freedom of the press, and freedom of association. Emperor Haile Selassie made the Catholic religion as the official the region of the state. And many other kind of things annoyed the soldiers, which made them to stage a coup in 1974. Another one was religious differences. Religious differences. You find that people from Ogaden, that is the Somalia side, together with other people of Eritrea, for them they were Muslims. So you find that there was what we call religious differences between the Muslims and the Catholics who were dominating the state. And Emperor Haile Selassie made a mistake of using these Catholics or Christians, the Orthodox and majorly they are Christians because not only Catholics, but they were Methodists here and then the Orthodox Church and the Catholics, he used to give them jobs to work in these Muslim countries. And remember, wherever they could go, they could even go ahead of eating pork, taking of wine or beer, and doing so, it could annoy the Muslims. And when it annoyed the Muslims, they used it as an excuse to stage a coup against the government of Emperor Haile Selassie. And in the due process also, they used to turn all the people they found there to become the Amharas. What we call the Amharization, making them to become Amharas, adapting the Amhara language, among others. Actually, he made even the Amharic language to become the official language of the government. So all this annoyed who? Annoyed Haile Mengistu Mariam, and then others, the junior officers, to stage a coup against Emperor Haile Selassie. Another factor which I can think of, influence of other coups. As they had seen other coups all over Africa, 1966, 1963. But when you are mentioning those coups, you mention where? 1963 coup in Togo, 1965 coup in Congo, 1965 coup in Nigeria by Howard Bomendiena against Ahmed Ben Bella, 1971 coup in Uganda, and many others. So when you are bringing all those coups, you say they influenced Haile Mengistu Mariam to stage a coup against the government of Emperor Haile Selassie. Okay, those are mine. Can you raise some of these factors and we hear from what you have studied so far? Raise for me some of these factors, those that you can remember. Yes, Dirish.
Religious differences.
Religious differences. Good. Can you elaborate more?
In that the emperor by that time declared Christianity as the official religion of the state.
Yes.
And other religions like Muslims, they were not considered. So this angered the state.
Okay, good. Good. Another person?
The biting poverty.
The biting poverty. Good.
That had claimed the majority of the Ethiopian population. Because could not afford to go to school, buy their needs like clothes, or even
Good.
get something to shelter them from weather. So it made
Good.
them
So
to revolt, to collectively support
mm,
the coup.
to support, yes, they supported the coup because they had that bitterness in them, the poverty, and the emperor did not care to what was happening amongst the masses, the people of Ethiopia, and that's why they supported the coup. Good. Another one.
Greed for power also led to the coup.
Greed for power, what we
Like
call excessive ambition for power. Yes,
yeah,
like
many of those military generals of peasant origin were so ambitious
mm,
and greedy for power, so they became impatient with the Selassie's gradual modernization process. So they wanted a quick change. So they they staged the coup against him. And after the coup, they refused to give power to a civilian government again.
okay, because let alone Mengi Tumalian became even a dictator. So good, greed for power from these junior officials. They wanted to become leaders of the government, and therefore, and that is why they were able to stage a coup against the government of Emperor Haile Selassie. Another one.
The Ethiopians were facing a problem of an economic crisis that was
Economic
characterized by unemployment, scarcity of the essential goods like clothes, food,
mm,
and even
mm,
the economic stagnation that led
mm.
to inflation of prices in the country.
Okay, 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 good. So you find that there was economic crisis in the way that unemployment, inflation, continued scarcity of goods and services, essential goods, and many others which annoyed them. It bred the anger, and that's why they supported the coup of 1974. Any other point?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
the the emperor did not take time to improve on the conditions of the army. The
Uh-huh.
soldiers were
Mm.
poor, they didn't have uniform, even
Mm.
that bit of nepotism was also practiced in the army.
In the
That
army.
made that made Mengistu to plot the coup.
Good. Grievances in the army because of the uncaring heart of the emperor that made uh, the people to join the army in their grievances, and that's why the coup became successful. Good. Uh-huh. Onapa, seeing the hand.
The emperor's harsh reactions to the students' demonstration also led to the
Uh-huh.
coup.
The
In that,
emperor's harsh reaction to the students' demonstrations. Good. Mm-hmm.
the students that were in Celis,
Universities.
yes, the students that were in that university demonstrated. So
Mm.
instead of the listening to them and
Mm-hmm.
addressing the issue it was about, for him, he
Yes.
just sending his police to
Mm-hmm.
arrest them. Some were even killed,
Killed.
others were
Good.
even. So
Good.
when these people have
Mm.
done it, it annoyed the people and they said they supported the coup.
Yes. Yes. It annoyed the masses because how can you kill students? The future of the country. Yes, they are demonstrating because they were seeing how the emperor was nepotic, how the emperor was dictatorial and was not caring, how there was too much stagnation in terms of economic development because for them they had gone abroad, they came back, and you find that these students in universities, they are the one that started such strikes and demonstrations which now opened the eyes of the soldiers, and they said, we have to do something, and hence the coup. Do we have any other? Do we have any other?
Yes,
Mhm.
yes.
Good. Mhm.
The emperor failed to improve on the school sector, which led to very many to high levels of illiteracy in the country, and it became one of the highest rates in Africa. That
Uh-huh.
led to unpopularity of the emperor.
High illiteracy rates in the country, in Ethiopia, also caused the war. Good. You find that he neglected the education system, especially primary education and tertiary education. And in the due course, you find that it caused him unpopularity and hence led to the what? Hence led to the coup. Any other? Okay. So that's how the coup ended. And after the coup, a provisional military government was put in place. Provisional military advisory government was put in place. Later, a man known as Haile Mengistu Marion took over power, created a Republican constitution, and he became a president. When he became a president, he also became a dictatorial, and almost all the things that were done by Emperor Haile Selassie, he also practiced: the dictatorship, the imprisonment of people without a trial. Economic crisis increased. He also failed to end the Ogaden question and the Eritrean question. Ogaden, that is southern Somalia, and then Eritrea, they got independence. So he failed to end such kind of crises. And then you find that he was also overthrown in 1991 by a man known as Meles Zenawi. Meles Zenawi is Meles, Meles, then Zenawi, Zenawi, Meles Zenawi in 1991. So you find that, yes, you find that,
Help me,
help you with what?
the spelling, pardon.
Meles Zenawi, Meles, Meles. Then Zenawi, Zenawi. Meles Zenawi is the one who toppled, is the one who overthrew the government of Haile Mengistu Mariam. Haile Mengistu Mariam in 1991. 1991. So maybe I can just give a brief background on some of the coups which are common, and then we end the coups. We have what we call 1972 coup in Ghana. This one was staged against the government of Dr. Kofi Busia of the Progressive Party, who came to power in 1969 after winning what we call parliamentary elections. And then you find that the man who toppled him was called Ignatius Akempong. Ignatius Akempong. Ignatius Akempong. Then from there, in 1979 to 1981, there was another coup which was staged by a flight lieutenant, J.J. Rawlings, Flight Lieutenant John Jerry Rawlings. John Jerry Rawlings was a flight lieutenant, flight lieutenant Jerry Rawlings. So from there, we are seeing that in 1966, in a country called Nigeria, there were two coups. When you're talking about Nigerian coups of 1966, there were two in number. The first coup took place in January, and then another coup took place in July. The January coup was against Abubakar Tafawa Balewa by General Aguiyi Elonzi. Whereas the other coup was staged by Yakubu Gowon against General Elonzi, who was unable. So from there, In Nigeria, there was 1975 coup, which was staged by Muhammad Mutala against the government of Olusegun Obasanjo, against the government of Olusegun Obasanjo. Then from there, we have the 1965 coup in Algeria. 1965 coup in Algeria was staged by Hawari Boumediene against the government of Ahmed Ben Bella of the FLN. Then we have what we call the 1980 coup. 1980 coup is another common one. This 1980 coup took place in Liberia. Liberia was a country where freed slaves were settled. That is in West Africa. So in 1847, they got independence. They got independence under what we call the True Whigs or Whigs Party. The True Whig Party. True is TRUA, True. Then Whig is WHIG, Whig or Whigs. You can add S. The True Whigs Party of the Afro-Liberians. Afro-Liberians, I mean, it had a combination of, no, it's not Afro-Liberian, it is Americo or America or American Liberians or Americo-Liberians. Say America-Liberians. These are the people who came as freed slaves from America. They settled, so they were whites or Black Americans. They had that kind of element of half caste. They are not Liberians, indigenous Liberians, they are not Americans, they are freed slaves. And even the intermarriage and those that they gave birth to, a generation was created and they believed to be superior than others. They believed to be better than these Africans they found, like the Kani tribe and other tribes. So they ruled for so many years. Since they settled these freed slaves, it took many years, over 100 years, that this True Whig Party and the Americo-Liberians were the one in charge. Not until in 1980, I think it was around September, when a man from the indigenous tribes of Liberia, those ones they found, these freed slaves, they found some indigenous tribes within Africans, original Africans. So a man known as a Sergeant, Lieutenant Kenyon or Samuel Kenyon Doe. Sergeant Samuel Kenyon Doe. Sergeant Samuel Kenyon Doe. A man who had uplifted his rank to the top sergeant rank, and he mobilized his fellows. They went to the residence of this man known as William Tobalt. William Tobalt was the president by that time. William Tobalt Jr. I think they add even William Richard Tobalt Jr. And he was toppled when he was found in his storage building, which was 7 stories, where he was sleeping in his bedroom, in even putting on pajamas, and he was shot twice in the head. However, some sources say